I'm sure there's an advantage to starting early. I don't know it personally because I didn't do that, but I can talk from my own experience. It's just, yeah, the advantages of being a person, a more whole person with experiences, with meeting people, with having life to talk about in your music rather than music to talk about in your music, if that makes sense.
I see a lot of kids coming straight out of, Berkeley, and they're like playing gigs the next week in New York, and they just, they never missed a beat.
They come out of Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
That's where you came out of.
Our guest today is vocalist and pianist NOA FORT, who even at a young age had apparently already found what we musicians call the zone. Here she is already leading an ensemble. How about that? Okay, this one's not about music, but the Department of Cuteness would find me if I didn't include it, so yeah, you're welcome. Noah's joke about Birdcly references her time spent in the Israeli desert studying the migration of this bird. There's all kinds of paths to what we musicians call the life, and Noah spent valuable time learning about people, herself, life, art, and yes, even birds before saying goodbye to normality. But she's here now, a full card-carrying Brooklyn artist warrior, healing people with music therapy and regularly creating beautiful, unique music. It always feels best to collaborate with a singer who sees themselves not in front of the ensemble, but as one of the instruments in the group. There's a patience and intimacy that comes with that, and that's exactly how I describe Noah. Her music is a great example of what happens when everyone's listening and anticipating what comes next together. Plus, her voice just feels good, and that's something we all overlook sometimes in the pursuit of clever content, virtuosity, or even artistic distinction. So please welcome Noah from our living room to yours, and enjoy.
Noah Fort, welcome to our show. We're really excited to have you here. We both kind of had you on the list, independently. Kat, we joked about it beforehand, but Kat said, I said, who do you want to do next? And she said, do you know this singer, Noah Fort? And I was like, oh, I just did a breakout room at a conservatory meeting with her today, like as you said this.
Yes,
so,
was
thanks for coming on the show. Really means a lot. And
thank you for having me.
We're all about just cool guests. That we joked that we almost called the show "Our Friends Are Rad." That's kind of what we wanted to show off to the world, is that we have cool people. You're the first guest that I heard said something like, "I've seen your show," or "I like your show," or "I know that your show exists." Usually we have to tell people we have a show, and they're like, "Do you? Are you sure you have one?" But like, I just want to say thanks for that. Like,
of course. As I was telling you before, but yeah, I was checking the Brooklyn Arts Council website and was checking grantees from this past year, and your names appeared, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let's see what they're doing.
We're
and
famous.
I heard about it.
Yeah, we're famous. That's
you
what
are.
it is.
Basically, you are famous, of course. And,
our three fans will love to hear that. our one 15-year-old in Sweden, a retired guy in Japan, and
the parents in the tot lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Hey, I saw you on that show. It literally happened.
Amazing.
I tell people I'm so famous, even my grandma knows who I am, and she doesn't even listen to avant-garde music. So
Yep.
Think about
household name at your grandma's house.
We talked with the vocalist before about the voice as an instrument, but I wanted to ask you some of that specifically because you're an improvisational vocalist, and everybody has a different perspective anyway. So can I just ask what it's like to have an instrument that's built into your body that is your body?
Just the fact that there's no medium between me and my voice makes it so much more real, immediate. There's nowhere to hide, basically. If I'm not feeling well, my voice
You can't look at your reed and make a furrowed brow and say like, oh, bad reed day, kind of thing.
Yeah, blame it on something.
Yeah, I mean, I could blame it on something, on who I am that day, on what I'm feeling that day, and that's maybe the worst and the best of it in a way. With the piano, it always feels like there's still this extra like distance between me and what I want to say. So I think that's the main thing.
It sounds vulnerable, like you're hinting at vulnerability.
Oh yeah.
It's also interesting that like, do you go somewhere special to practice, even within your own house or your room? Because like, I go to the piano, and then, or it makes me think like you put out your yoga mat and like there you practice, but you're always with your instrument.
Right. And yet, yes, I do go to a specific place, and that place is the place where I can most close the window and be contained. So it's our bedroom. We have a small, normal small Brooklyn apartment, so there's not an extra room where I can practice. And I don't do it at the piano because that's going to fill up the whole house, and I'm very, very conscious of neighbors and my partner, and so usually I close the door behind me in the bedroom and just do it there, close the windows, super aware that everyone above me and on the sides, like in our building, can hear me. And the cat can hear me too and sings with me.
Very cute.
Is it kind of ritual what you're talking about? Does it go that far that you have like a certain way that you want to feel before you do it? Or is it just like, I have my space that I go and I jump right in, something like that?
It's kind of a mix of both. I think at the beginning there were times where I would always practice. I always practice in our bedroom, but I think at some point in the beginning I was still practicing with the door open, and then one day my partner walked into the house and I said, I could hear you from the beginning of the hallway of our building. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should close the door. And then it became this thing, only if I close the door can I really sing. And then the cat comes into play again because she feels very much like she needs to be everywhere. If the door is closed, she gets super like, no, I want to be there with you. Yeah. So then she starts crying and da-da-da. And then sometimes I end up like leaving a little opening so she can come in and go. But yeah, it has to be that mindset for me, because it is a very private space in the voice. Even if I just do warm-ups, it's just,
I have always felt I hate people hearing me practice. And I live in a building that it's known in Brooklyn as the jazz dorms. There's a lot of musicians there, and I live on the inside of a courtyard, which is kind of like two amphitheaters pushed together. So if I practice, people are going to hear me. The windows are not soundproofed. They didn't bring in a studio technician to like make sure that was done. So it's whatever. I mean, it doesn't cripple me. I practice, but like I just don't like it. It's almost like somebody seeing you do your laundry or something to me, or like, I don't know how to describe it. Clean your own toilet or something.
There's a level of nakedness to it, right? That's so exposed.
Because you're kind of supposed to sound bad when you practice because you're working on something. So it feels funny. It's a very private thing.
Right. What's it like to hear an improvisational phrase and there's no hurdle, there's no wall in between it? It's just there when you hear it. Maybe I'm making a little more of it than it actually is, but
you mean the technical aspect of pressing, or knowing what notes you're going to play?
If you hear what you're going to play when you're improvising on the piano, okay, but then you have to put it there. And I know you still have to do that in the voice. The voice is an instrument. But you know what I mean? And back to what you were saying, that there's nothing in between what your mind, what you hear, and what you sing. I'm jealous. I'm sure there's a side to it that you'd say you're not jealous about. But what's that like? Is it just magic?
I mean, I do actually visualize a lot. Maybe because I play the piano, I'm able to see, like, if I sing a certain line, I could maybe visualize what I'm singing, or maybe I could, if I sat and thought, I'm improvising over G, I know that right now I'm singing a B, D, whatever. But I don't have to go to that place, and it could be much more immediate, and there's an easiness of really just hearing what you hear, and hoping that it will sound good outside of you the way you feel it when it's inside of you.
That's the only rule.
Meow. Okay, I'm ready. Meow. Meow. Meow.
na na
But I don't know if that answers your question
It
at all.
does. Well, I mean, we're just looking for a perspective on it anyway. You know what I mean? I just kind of want to know what that feels like and what you think. And I'm
Talk
jealous.
a lot about voice in sound healing, just because the vibration coming from your actual body and within you is like the most direct source of healing, which I think is really cool. You've heard of like toning or something like that. It's all healing work, transferring vibrations throughout your body.
Like
I don't even know why I brought that up. I just think it's really cool.
Totally. Like the Tibetan monks, you know, they do all that stuff. Even not the throat singing and all of that, which is amazing. But I just saw Dune, and they were doing some of that, like, multiphonic singing. Is that what it's called? Where you're like, you can sing like 3 notes at once or something. You've got the high one and then the 2 on the low.
Wow.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I was reading your bio, and the joke is I always stalk people who are going to be on the show.
Oh God, I hope you read something that makes any sense. I don't even know.
I really liked it. It seemed like your journey wasn't straight to being a performing musician, like out of conservatory straight into gigs, you know. It says something on your bio about researching bird migration in the desert.
That's true.
Which I was like, yeah, rad, you know. Can you talk about that? I mean, not necessarily bird migration unless you want to, but like just the idea. I see a lot of kids coming straight out of, you know, Berkeley, and they're like playing gigs the next week in New York, and they just, you know, they never missed a beat. And I wonder if there are advantages or disadvantages of both, or just what it's meant to you to, like, you know, be a person before all this.
Yeah. They come out of Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
That's where you came out of.
Yeah, I guess you could say I'm a very late bloomer. If there's a certain like general blooming average
Yeah.
path, I took my time figuring out who I was in music and who I was. I mean, I guess I'm still figuring out, like I think we all are and forever will be if we're truthful in a way, right? But I can't say here
As a person, you mean, too? You're talking.
Yeah, definitely. As a person, as a musician, I think I can't separate the two. So
Right.
I'm thankful now for the time it took me and for what I ended up doing until I'm here today. But it wasn't always something that I looked at it this way. It was more a source of like, oh, that means I can't do it. That means it's too late. That means I'm not really meant to do it. All these like weird, you know, questionings that are more about what you think society thinks you should be doing rather than what you really should be doing. So I do think in terms of advantages and disadvantages, there's definitely, I'm sure there's an advantage to starting early. I don't know it personally because I didn't do that, but I can talk from my own experience. It's just, yeah, the advantages of being a person, a more whole person with experiences, with meeting people, with having life to talk about in your music rather than music to talk about in your music, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Keith Jarrett says music doesn't come from music like babies don't come from babies. So I would think that all of that you did it feel like coming home when you were like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a musician. I'm playing gigs now or projects and all of that. What did it feel like? Did it feel like a bold decision, like jumping out of an airplane, like, oh my God, I'm really going to do this? Or was it just like easing into those like pajamas that were made for you or something like that? Like,
it feels like kind of both. It was bold because at that point I was already, you know, post a degree and like a beginning of, not really, I never really started a career in biology, but I was already kind of in a path of doing that. And so it was bold also in the age that I was to take that turn and make everything, like start something really from new, even though I was always playing and singing. Like it didn't start like out of the blue, but still taking it professionally felt like, oh my God, what am I doing on one hand? But then when I actually did it, it just felt so good. I was I was a very, I guess I was very depressed before I really did it. And when I started really making music and really experiencing it with other people, I felt so good and it felt so right. I'm like, okay, this has been the thing the whole time. I just took my time getting there and maybe was scared to go there, and also had to go in my own little different path and take my time in blooming. But now it feels like this is what I should be doing. So it's a mix. It still felt very bold and scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you knew. Like,
yeah, I think
this is right. Scary or not.
Yeah. I think there was a place in me that basically knew it always.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, was trying to not go there and to avoid it and be like, let's not. I'm like, okay, I have to.
I tried to have a normal life for a while too. And I got gray. Like, there's photos of me. Like, seriously.
And then you went ungray?
I would say that I, like, went against the grain of my own spirit or soul, or maybe just my psychology, if you want to think dry about it. And, like, I was getting sick. I was starting to have, like, migraines all the time and, like, weird stuff. And when I just said, you know what, I'm going to turn downstream and, like, this is definitely who I am, you know? So...
Was that after you already were in the path
It was about
music?
last Tuesday. I was listening to your new album, and we were both talking about it. We've both been listening to it a lot. And it seems like sometimes maybe I'm wrong, like the metaphor of shapes and colors that we talk about in music. Does that apply? Can you talk about that? Do you think about it in that way at all?
First of all, thank you for saying that. That
it's beautiful.
Makes me feel really good.
No, it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, it is. Really.
Thank you. I think it applies a lot. I mean, it's strange because I used to, I think maybe on my website I said something like a painter of sounds or something like this. Like I used to, maybe that's how my old website used to be. I didn't even see that. Yeah, but in this record, even though the cover really shows all these beautiful colors, and if we have time, I can tell a little bit more about the cover and the incredible artist Laura Lewison who made the cover, who made the art. It wasn't specifically for the cover, but it became. But in this, I feel like in this specific record, is really shapes. It's a big part of that, and definitely not thinking in terms of a logical harmonic progression or anything like that.
Right.
Like at least one of the pieces started from me taking, choosing like pieces of paper out of a hat, and each piece had a chord on it. I'm like, I don't know how to write.
Element.
Yes.
Very cool.
It started like that, and I'm like, I just don't know what to write, and I'm gonna just start with that. And it was a process of some sessions of writing. So first there were the chords, then there was a line that came like, what the one note can I choose from this chord, and then what kind of melody comes out of this, and then how can I work with this melody as long as possible without almost changing it, but still have some progress. So that's an idea for at least one of the pieces. And there's another piece where it's really about, I meditated and came out with this one melodic line.
I was just going to say, it felt like I was it felt like you were meditating for me.
Oh, wow.
With the music. Like I was
great.
breathing deeper. Because it felt like instead of like, let's rush some content in here, there needs to be stuff happening in order for me to be sophisticated. It really felt like, I don't want to say relaxing. It's not that. It was stimulating.
Yeah.
It's interesting to talk about the like art versus music, visual art versus music, sonic art.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the words are the same.
Right.
That line or that shade, or I don't know, right now can't think, but you could probably think of tons.
Yeah.
The contour, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So even the word shape, the shape of a phrase, it's like literally a shape. So if you have any thoughts on that, that would be really interesting. But even more specifically, because you said the word shape, how is that relating to your music?
I think because a lot of my current work comes from, first of all, from the voice, it's really about some contour and shape of a melody.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about one of the pieces in the album is, again, like I think what I said before, I started from a meditation of just one little phrase that has a very clear shape, and I really tried to keep that shape, but every time, like literally every measure, make one little change. So again, the same idea, similar to the first piece that I described, like what is the most minimal change that I can do that still can move the thing to a different location, to a different point of view, to a different...
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so really, it's really taking its time.
that was what I was experiencing with your music, with just a single sound for a while. And I was like, oh, how long have I been doing this? I lost track of time and space, which is like a very weird perception that we have anyway. You know what I mean? Time flies when you're having fun or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know what to ask, but can you just give that to me or teach it to me? Like,
Yeah, how do you do it?
I want that in my sound. You know?
That's a really beautiful way to describe it. I mean, it's really not, well, partially due to what I'm able to do, but I think I could play more. I mean, I have it in me,
Sure.
and I just don't always want to. I'm not interested, and I'm interested in actually playing less and saying more. And
Yeah. Even when singers are like that, they still put ornaments and some things that it's like, okay, you're still kind of, but just the sound, just one sound that does that to you, and you're like, oh, that's like almost all I need right there. And then there's more to it. You have another sound after that, and like you said, every time it repeats, it's different. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. So you should check out the album. Here it is. What's it called?
Everyday Actions.
Everyday Actions. There you go. All right. I'll probably cut that
you.
out.
Thanks so much for listening to it like this. It's, it's interesting that you're talking about it like this, because some people experience my music, I think at least like some people wrote about it, like in using words like soothing,
Yeah,
calming,
that's a little too.
and then I'm like, it can have that effect, but are you really hearing the whole thing?
Yeah.
Because it's not a music that
But when
you're
people
supposed
say
to be
that, I
feeling.
hear like that crap music when you get a massage, and it's
Exactly.
like that same,
That's
like,
where it sends me. I'm like, really? Is this what you hear?
No, because it's active. I was an active participant in it. When they write
Yeah.
screenplays, they talk about like, is the audience member active in this? Are they asking questions like, what's going to happen next, or who is this character, and why are they acting like this? And I feel like music can have that kind of narrative too.
Absolutely.
And of course, if there's forms that are changing to something else and being dramatic, like that can do that. But with yours, it was just the colors that made me be like, oh, I'm really participating in this right now. I'm like, I'm not trying to listen. It was like kind of overtook me a little bit,
I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, well, that's the show. Come on our show. You get
Just-
you get
is
as
this
much
part of
praise
it? You
as we
have to
can
cry?
muster.
The part of the show is everyone has to cry. Did it happen?
Crying has happened on the show before.
I cry for
I think it was me.
I cry for different reasons with the show.
Shit, the camera's not working.
When I've been on film editing for 6 hours, then I'm crying.
God.
It's a different thing. Can we talk about music therapy for just a minute? Is that
Or more than a minute. It's so fascinating to me.
I'm interested with it.
If you want to talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You and I both teach for the Brooklyn Conservatory of Music.
Right.
Shout out to Brooklyn Conservatory. For anybody out there, what the hell is music therapy? Is it just like thunder sticks and like dream catchers and like some crystal water or something? Like, is it some weird stuff? What's going on?
Oh, yeah, it's that.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
That's all.
Tea leaves and tarot cards and
But basically, to really generalize, is just the use of music in the pursuit of benefiting someone's life, and for all different reasons why a person would want to go to therapy. And it could be people who go, like, instead of going to a verbal therapy, they're going to a music therapist, or it could be children or adults with disabilities, and how you can use music to support them in their own needs and their own goals. So it can be music as a motivator. Someone might be, even like, I'm thinking of I don't do much of that work, but let's say there's a child whose development is preventing him from moving his arm in a correct way, and you might motivate him with a certain instrument that he would like to play in a song that you're teaching him. So that's one thing. The work that I do is actually, a lot of it is improvisation based. Funny enough.
cool.
So the use of improvisation too. The same use that we do as improviser, like express and communicate, but it can go to all these different places.
Do you use the voice usually, or do they bring in an instrument? Or?
I use multiple instruments in my work. I use the voice, I use the piano, I use the guitar, even though I'm really not a very good guitarist. But for the basic stuff that I need to play, that's good enough. I use a lot of percussion instruments.
How does music help at-risk youth? Doesn't music ruin your life? That's what, I don't know if you've ever seen Footloose, but...
It can start from even just listening to songs together, songs that they like, and then discussing what is the meaning of this song for you. Why do you like this artist? What does it mean? And having a person that they can discuss it with, an adult that's showing them maybe a certain way of connection that they're not familiar with from their homes or even from school. That's one thing. And themes come up through those song discussions, and you realize what's going on in the child's life. And then there's improvising, and you don't need to be... most of the clients I work with never played an instrument before, and you don't need to be a musician in order to play. I'm saying this to musicians, and it's not like whatever, we don't need to learn how to play, but the way that we use instruments in music therapy can be accessible. We make it accessible so that anyone can join in their own level of ability. If someone can keep a beat, that's great. If someone cannot, then we can improvise around it in a way that makes it sound like it's part of this thing that is still complete, even if there's a very kind of chaotic.
And this helps with emotional intelligence, psychology kind of stuff.
It can help with psychological issues. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever cried harder in my life than during the kind of early days of the lockdown, when the conservatory was putting out these sort of compilation videos. And they were showing some of my kids playing over Zoom, and they were like happy. And then they were showing some of the music therapy kids. I think some of them had Down syndrome was what was going on. And they were like on Zoom with their teacher, and they were clapping and singing, and they were so happy. And I was just like, oh my God, of all the hate that's going around right now about, masks or whatever, like, this is beautiful what's happening. So I just remember watching that over and over again, and just like, like just like a baby.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. Can you share how has this affected your connection to music? Has this, maybe not at all, but has it taught you anything about how you approach music and how you feel about it?
I think it's helped me release some beliefs about how music should sound and what is correct, or what's the level of something in order for it to be good, or there's some sort of, there's different kinds of music making, even in music therapy, that can be super complex. I'm not saying that it has to stay in a level that is very basic, but there is no expectation of that. There is no...
Yeah, I came to that through studying music of other cultures, is that sometimes simplicity is profound and beautiful and difficult.
I really like the balance of doing therapy and working as a musician. I feel like if I did only one of those, it wouldn't feel complete or healthy.
We always ask people, is there anything that you wish you had known earlier in life? It could have been when you were 10 or when you were 19, or maybe in January of 2019. You wish you have known something. That's the new joke.
First, that it's okay to take your time, and it's actually it's okay to take your time to find your voice and who you are. And I feel like a lot of kids today don't get that sense.
They don't.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, for me, I wish I could have, I'm happy with where I am today, but there is a part of me like, what if I wasn't as scared in my early 20s and I just went for it then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
I think that a lot.
Huh.
Me too.
Yeah.
I also wonder, though, if that played into your development for you too. You know what I mean? Would we have that album if you hadn't had that experience to make a different kind of choice? No, I'm gonna do this.
Also, on the flip side, we say that about ourselves. Oh, I was scared. But I can also, if prompted, think of so many examples where I was not timid, where I was like, I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing. And it's just interesting because we tell ourselves these stories about ourselves, but the opposite is also true.
Yeah. Well, you moved here by yourself to Brooklyn, right?
Yeah, I think of myself now. Sorry to make it about me.
On my show. You know how many people I grew up with would be like, no way. 92% of the people I grew up with, no way they could do that.
I think of myself as kind of a little bit shy, especially musically. You know, maybe a late bloomer, like you said. But I also moved to New York with one suitcase, and I had no idea what the hell I was going to do when I got here. Sure, I was scared and shy, and maybe I didn't find my people for many years, but I showed up, you know?
There's no such thing as courage unless you're scared. Like, if you hit your head and you have no fear response, then, like, jumping out of an airplane is not impressive.
Right.
But, like, or scaling Mount Everest or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to be scared in order to have the experience to be brave and courageous. And the other thing is, Jerry Seinfeld has this joke. He says...
It's the second time you're talking about him today.
I've talked about him like 6 times on this show. I don't know why this happens. I'm not like a big fanboy or anything of his, but he has this joke where he says the number one fear in America, they did a poll, a study, the number one fear is public speaking, which I think performing an instrument would be at least
similar.
As scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he says the joke is number 2 is death. That means you'd rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy. It's a good joke. But I mean, think about what you do. No matter how scared you might be doing it or to have done it, at some point you were 15 playing a concert. At some point you were probably 13. At some point you were in music school and there was a jury of people, for me at least, like taking notes about, that was flat, you know? And it's like, that's incredible. So, you know, however it worked out. Noah, thanks so much. This is so great. And
thank you.
Really appreciate having your perspective and having you on the show and do some music and kind of do what we do now.
Can't wait to play with you guys.
Yeah.
la.